The Grand Council chamber of the Zalaran Alliance echoed with voices of pride and condescension. Towering beings of shimmering exoskeletons sat in opulent thrones, their multifaceted eyes glinting with disdain as holographic projections of a distant star system floated before them. At the center of the display, a small formation of sleek, unassuming ships hovered, human ships. "They call this a fleet," one elder scoffed, his voice resonating through the chamber. "A collection of metallic gnats. Do these humans expect to challenge the might of the Zalaran Armada with such toys?" Laughter erupted, a chorus of mocking tones that filled the room. Another counselor leaned forward, his clawed hand gesturing at the display. "Primitive designs. No discernible heavy weaponry. Their vessels lack the sheer mass to withstand even a single volley from one of our cruisers. This will be a demonstration, not a battle." The Zalarans prided themselves on their military dominance, their fleets renowned for their size and destructive power. Their ships were colossal, bristling with weapons capable of reducing planets to ash. For eons, their strategy had been simple: overwhelm and annihilate. In their eyes, the measure of a fleet's strength was its scale, and humanity's so-called tiny fleet seemed a mockery of that standard. The council's laughter subsided as a junior officer entered the chamber, his demeanor cautious, almost hesitant. "Honored counselors," he began, his mandibles clicking nervously, "preliminary reports from our scouts suggest anomalies in the humans' fleet." The elder counselor nearest him waved a dismissive claw. "Anomalies? Elaborate, if you must." The officer straightened, his voice steadying. "Their energy signatures are inconsistent with known technologies. Our systems struggle to pinpoint their exact armaments or propulsion mechanisms. Additionally, simulations suggest their maneuverability is unprecedented." A murmur rippled through the chamber, though it was quickly silenced by a bark of laughter from the Supreme Commander. His towering form rose, exuding an aura of authority and disdain. "You speak as if these anomalies pose a threat. Do not be fooled by irregularities, officer. The Zalaran Armada has faced countless species, each claiming some unique advantage. All fell before our might." "But, Supreme Commander," the officer persisted, his voice betraying a hint of urgency, "their tactics, what little we've observed, suggest an unorthodox approach. Their movements are calculated, almost surgical." Another counselor interjected, his tone dripping with contempt. "Surgical or not, what can they hope to achieve with such meager numbers? Their entire fleet wouldn't even suffice as escorts for one of our dreadnoughts." The room erupted into agreement, a cacophony of prideful voices echoing the sentiment. The officer, sensing the futility of further warnings, lowered his gaze and stepped back. His unease lingered, a quiet shadow among the arrogance of his superiors. As the council resumed their deliberations, the holographic projection shifted, offering a closer view of the human fleet. The ships were undeniably sleek, their metallic hulls reflecting the faint light of distant stars. There was an elegance to their design, a simplicity that starkly contrasted the imposing bulk of Zalaran warships. But to the Zalarans, simplicity was synonymous with inferiority. "These humans have much to learn about war," the Supreme Commander declared, his voice booming with conviction. "Let them bring their anomalies, their surgical tactics. They will crumble as all others have before us." The council erupted in applause, their confidence unshaken. But in the shadowed corners of the chamber, the junior officer lingered, his mind racing with unease. Something about the human's fleet gnawed at him, a puzzle he couldn't yet piece together. As the council's laughter filled the chamber once more, he silently vowed to uncover the truth, even if no one else believed it mattered. The Zalaran Armada stretched across the void like a wall of shimmering death. Thousands of massive ships formed an unbreakable phalanx, each one bristling with weaponry capable of leveling entire planets. The fleet was a testament to their species' dominance, its sheer size meant to instill fear and submission in any opponent. Commanders issued orders with calm arrogance, their voices echoing across countless channels. "Maintain formation. The humans will warp in soon, and when they do, let's make this quick," one captain declared, his tone tinged with boredom. "I expect nothing more than target practice." Across the fleet, similar sentiments were shared. There was no sense of urgency or concern, just confidence, bolstered by centuries of unchallenged superiority. Watching from the safety of the council chambers, Zolaran leaders observed the unfolding operation with smug satisfaction. Then, without warning, the humans arrived. Space rippled as their fleet emerged from hyperspace in coordinated bursts of light. Fewer than 100 ships materialized, their sleek forms dwarfed by the behemoths surrounding them. The human vessels moved with eerie precision, forming tight formations before scattering into unpredictable patterns. In the council chamber, laughter erupted once more. "That's it? That's their fleet," one counselor sneered. "They should have stayed on their planet. This is embarrassing." In the field, Zolaran captains shared the sentiment. "All units, engage and neutralize. Do not waste unnecessary firepower," came the order from the Supreme Commander. The first wave of Zolaran fire lit up the void, beams of concentrated plasma and kinetic projectiles streaking toward the humans. But something unexpected happened. The humans moved. Not just moved, they weaved. Each ship executed maneuvers that defied logic, threading through the barrage as if anticipating every shot. Zolaran targeting systems struggled to keep up, their calculations unable to match the sheer speed and precision of the smaller ships. "Recalibrate targeting. Adjust for their movements," barked one captain, his tone now tinged with irritation. Then the disruptions began. Zolaran systems flickered as strange pulses emanated from the human fleet. Power grids sputtered, entire systems blinked offline, and targeting reticles disappeared from screens. Tactical displays, once the lifeblood of the Armada, flooded with false readings, phantom ships, fake missile locks, and distorted sensor data. "What's happening to our systems?" a panicked officer shouted. The humans didn't launch a massive volley or attempt a head-on assault. Instead, they struck with surgical precision. Small, coordinated groups of ships targeted vulnerable points, sensor arrays, shield generators, and communication relays. Each strike was calculated, crippling the Zolarans without engaging them in prolonged combat. Within moments, the Zolaran Armada, the pride of the galaxy, found itself blind and scattered. Captains shouted conflicting orders, their ships unable to respond effectively. Panic rippled through their ranks as more systems failed and losses mounted. One by one, smaller Zolaran vessels fell, not obliterated, but disabled, left adrift in the chaos. The humans weren't fighting to destroy. They were dismantling. In the council chamber, the laughter had stopped. The silence was heavy as the leaders watched their invincible fleet falter against an enemy they had so thoroughly underestimated. Their expressions shifted from amusement to unease as the humans' efficiency became clear. "How are they doing this?" a counselor muttered, his voice barely audible. On the battlefield, the Supreme Commander struggled to maintain control. "All ships, regroup. Form defensive clusters," he barked, desperation seeping into his tone. But the humans gave no time for recovery. Every regrouping effort was met with precision strikes, further unraveling the Armada's cohesion. For the first time in generations, the Zolarans faced an opponent who wasn't just surviving their assault, they were winning. The Zolarans had always relied on overwhelming force, a doctrine of brute strength honed over centuries. But against humanity, this approach unraveled. The secret lay in the technology and philosophy that underpinned every aspect of the tiny fleet, a union of innovation and purpose that no alien power had anticipated. Human ships were unlike anything the Zolarans had faced. Built to prioritize speed and adaptability, these vessels were powered by cutting-edge AI that provided pilots with reflexes faster than any biological being could achieve. While Zolaran targeting algorithms required time to adjust trajectories, human ships responded in milliseconds, weaving through enemy fire with uncanny precision. The AI systems weren't just tools, they were partners, seamlessly blending human intuition with machine logic. Even the ship's physical design spoke of versatility. Modular in construction, they could adapt mid-battle. Hull plates shifted to optimize shielding against specific threats, while internal systems rerouted power dynamically to respond to damage or changing combat conditions. Weapon pods could be swapped and recalibrated on the fly, allowing a ship built for reconnaissance to become a strike vessel within minutes. It wasn't just ingenuity, it was survival, a design philosophy rooted in humanity's long history of adapting to the impossible. Their weapons were equally unconventional. Instead of colossal cannons or planet-destroying beams, the tiny fleet used precision tools designed to exploit vulnerabilities. Railguns fired slivers of metal at relativistic speeds, targeting exposed joints or energy conduits with pinpoint accuracy. Swarms of autonomous drones accompanied each ship, weaving through enemy formations to disrupt shields or scramble targeting systems. The Zolarans, accustomed to straightforward brute force engagements, found themselves confounded by an opponent who treated battle as a chess game, not a brawl. But it wasn't just the tech. It was the mindset. For humanity, war wasn't about dominance, it was about survival. This philosophy had been shaped by centuries of challenges, natural disasters, internal conflicts, and the struggle to expand into the harshness of space. Every setback had forced humanity to think smarter, work harder, and find strength in the face of adversity. Aboard the lead human vessel, the fleet commander addressed their crew as the battle unfolded. Their voice carried a steady resolve, inspiring confidence in every soul aboard. We were never meant to have the largest fleet or the most advanced weapons. What we have is the will to endure and the drive to adapt. Remember why we fight. Not for conquest, but for our right to exist, to explore, and to define our own future. Today, we show the galaxy who we are. This spirit wasn't just a speech, it was a truth etched into every human effort. When humanity first reached for the stars, they had been surrounded by adversities far greater than themselves. The void of space was unforgiving, its vastness a reminder of how small they were. Yet, in that smallness, humanity found its greatest strength, the ability to see limitations not as barriers, but as challenges to overcome. Flashbacks of human history told a story of perseverance. The first space stations, cobbled together with limited resources, taught humanity how to thrive in the harshness of orbit. The colonization of Mars and the outer planets was achieved not through raw power, but by solving the intricate puzzles of life support systems and resource scarcity. Humanity's advancements weren't just technological, they were lessons in resilience. On the battlefield, this resilience became evident. Human ships moved in perfect synchronicity, exploiting every gap in the Zolaran formations. A coordinated strike targeted a Zolaran capital ship, a towering dreadnought that was the pride of their fleet. As drones swarmed its shields, railgun fire found its way to critical systems. A single concentrated burst from a human experimental EMP weapon left the behemoth dead in the water, its systems fried and its crew powerless. Panic spread through the Zolaran ranks. Their commanders, so used to overwhelming their enemies, struggled to comprehend the relentless efficiency of the humans. It wasn't chaos, it was calculated precision. Every human strike left the armada weaker, every maneuver created new vulnerabilities. What had once been dismissed as an insignificant fleet now loomed as an unstoppable force. The council chamber, once alive with scorn, was silent. Zolaran leaders watched in stunned disbelief as their invincible fleet faltered. Each loss felt like a blow not just to their forces, but to their pride. The humans had not only challenged their supremacy, they had redefined the very rules of war. For humanity, this moment wasn't just about victory. It was a declaration, a testament to what they had always been capable of. In the cold vacuum of space, against a foe that saw them as nothing, humanity showed the galaxy that strength wasn't measured in size or numbers. It was measured in resolve, in the ability to rise above expectations and turn the impossible into reality. The battlefield had grown eerily silent, save for the sporadic bursts of Zolaran weapon fire and the calculated movements of the human fleet. The Zolaran armada, once so sure of its invincibility, now resembled a wounded beast lashing out in desperation. But even in their humiliation, the Zolarans were not without their final, terrible weapon. From the heart of the armada emerged their flagship, Eternal Dominion. It was a monstrous dreadnought, so massive it seemed to blot out the stars behind it. Its hull bristled with countless weapons, but none more devastating than its planet-destroying cannon, a weapon of last resort, designed to annihilate entire worlds. The Supreme Commander's voice echoed through the fractured fleet, rallying what remained of their forces. Focus all efforts on protecting the Eternal Dominion. If these humans want a war, we will give them an ending they'll never forget. On the human side, the fleet commander analyzed the new threat with unwavering focus. The dreadnought's power was undeniable, but its sheer size and complexity were also its weakness. It was slow, cumbersome, and dependent on smaller vessels to shield it from faster opponents. The human commander's voice rang out to their fleet. Listen closely. That behemoth is their last stand. We take it down, and this battle is over. But we'll need precision and sacrifice. This is what we train for. Trust in each other. Trust in humanity. The Eternal Dominion advanced, its massive weapon systems charging with a sinister hum. Human ships began their maneuver, splitting into two distinct groups. The first group darted forward, firing in calculated bursts, not to inflict damage but to draw the Zalaran dreadnought's attention. They danced along the edges of its firing range, baiting it into turning its bulkier weapons toward them. The Zalarans took the bait. Concentrate all firepower on those pests, barked the Supreme Commander, his desperation bleeding into every word. Meanwhile, the second group of human ships executed a high-speed flanking maneuver, slipping past the dreadnought's outer defenses. They approached the ship's massive shields, which shimmered with an impenetrable energy field. The Zalarans believed these shields to be invincible, but humanity had studied their weaknesses. The human pilots knew what had to be done. One by one, smaller ships made daring suicide runs, crashing into the shield's emitters at critical points. Each impact created a cascading failure, and with every loss, the shield flickered and weakened. It was a painful, calculated sacrifice, each pilot knowing their death was a step toward victory. With the shields down, the human fleet closed in, executing a maneuver so precise it seemed choreographed. Railguns fired in synchronized bursts, targeting exposed power conduits and weapon mounts. Swarms of drones descended on the dreadnought like angry wasps, tearing apart sensor arrays and disrupting internal systems. Missiles struck in perfect unison, hammering at structural weak points. The Eternal Dominion fought back, its immense arsenal wreaking havoc on the surrounding space. But for all its firepower, it could not match the agility and precision of the tiny fleet. Every human pilot moved with purpose, every strike delivered with surgical accuracy. The dreadnought, once a symbol of Zalaran dominance, began to falter. Inside the Zalaran flagship, chaos reigned. Systems failed faster than they could be repaired, and the Supreme Commander's orders went unheard amid the cacophony of alarms. The mighty weapon that had promised victory, the planet-destroying cannon, lay silent, its power source disabled by human sabotage. The final blow came with devastating elegance. A coordinated strike from 3 human ships pierced the dreadnought's reactor core, unleashing a chain reaction. The Eternal Dominion erupted in a dazzling explosion, a supernova of fire and debris that illuminated the battlefield. Human ships pulled back, their formation intact, as the remnants of the Zalaran fleet scattered in retreat. The battle was over. From afar, the Zalaran Council watched in stunned silence. Their pride had blinded them, their arrogance shattered by a force they had deemed insignificant. Humanity's fleet, so small and unassuming, had proven to be a weapon of brilliance, a triumph of innovation, courage, and determination. One counselor broke the silence, their voice heavy with both awe and fear. We mocked their size, their simplicity. But now, I see, they are not weak. They are relentless. Another added, their tone bitter with resignation, their strength lies not in their numbers but in their minds. They adapt, they endure, and they fight with a purpose we cannot comprehend. The Supreme Commander's final transmission echoed faintly in the chamber, a desperate acknowledgement of defeat. We underestimated them. We thought them small, but their spirit, it is vast. The Zalaran retreat marked more than just a loss, it marked the end of an era. The galaxy had changed, and humanity stood at its center, no longer the underdog but a force to be reckoned with. The council chamber of the Galactic Alliance was uncharacteristically somber. The Zalaran representatives, once the loudest voices of arrogance and superiority, sat in silence, their pride fractured by the events of the recent battle. Other species whispered among themselves, grappling with the same realization: the humans were no longer a curiosity or an anomaly. They were a force that had reshaped the balance of power in the galaxy. An emergency meeting had been called to address the implications of humanity's victory. The Zalaran defeat was unprecedented. A species that had long defined galactic warfare had been brought to its knees by a tiny, unassuming fleet. The question hung heavy in the air: what did this mean for the future? A Zalaran elder finally spoke, their voice betraying a bitterness tempered by reluctant respect. "We mocked them. We called them insignificant. But their actions have proven that size, strength, and tradition are not the only measures of power. Humanity has earned its place at this table. To ignore this truth would be folly." Other council members nodded in agreement, though some did so begrudgingly. It wasn't just humanity's victory that commanded respect, it was the way they had achieved it. They had turned the battlefield into a canvas, painting a picture of ingenuity, courage, and unyielding determination. In doing so, they had exposed the complacency of the galaxy's most dominant powers. Word of the battle spread quickly, and curiosity about humanity surged. Who were these beings who had risen so far, so fast? What was the source of their resilience? The Zalarans, for all their humiliation, found themselves grappling with these questions, their defeat forcing them to reevaluate everything they thought they knew about war and strength. When humanity's representative finally arrived at the council chamber, the atmosphere shifted. The diplomat, a calm, composed figure, spoke with measured authority. Their words were neither boastful nor apologetic. "We did not seek this battle," the diplomat began, their voice resonating across the chamber. "But when faced with aggression, we chose to defend ourselves. Not with brute force or overwhelming numbers, but with strategy, innovation, and the resolve to protect what is ours. That resolve is the essence of who we are." The room remained silent as the diplomat continued, their tone unwavering. "Let this serve as a lesson, not just to those who would underestimate us, but to all who value peace. We do not desire conflict, but we will not shrink from it. We will defend our people, our freedom, and our future. And we will do so with every resource at our disposal." The message was clear: humanity was not seeking conquest or domination, but it would never again allow itself to be dismissed or underestimated. There was power in the restraint of the words, in the quiet confidence that underscored the speech. The Zalarans, once so eager to crush humanity, now found themselves staring across the chamber at an equal, perhaps even a superior. For the first time in their long history, they were forced to acknowledge that their way was not the only way. As the diplomat concluded their address, there was no applause, no grand gestures of approval. But the respect in the room was palpable. Humanity's place among the stars was no longer in question. The aftermath of the battle rippled across the galaxy. Other species, many of whom had quietly feared or resented the Zalarans, began to see humanity in a new light. Here was a species that defied the odds, that succeeded not through brute strength but through brilliance and determination. Slowly, grudgingly, respect began to replace skepticism. Back on Earth, celebrations were muted. The victory was acknowledged, but humanity remained wary. They understood the weight of what had been achieved, not just a battle won, but a declaration made to an entire galaxy. They were no longer invisible. They had stepped into the spotlight, and with that came new challenges and responsibilities. In the closing moments of the council meeting, a Zalaran elder approached the human diplomat. Their expression was inscrutable, a mix of lingering pride and newfound respect. "You are not what we expected," they admitted. "Perhaps that is your greatest strength." The diplomat offered a slight smile. "Perhaps. Or perhaps it is simply that we have always been underestimated. And perhaps that has made us stronger." As humanity took its place among the Galactic Alliance, the final words of the diplomat lingered in the minds of all who heard them. We are explorers at heart, not conquerors. We hope for peace, for collaboration, and for understanding. But know this, if our survival is threatened, we will always rise to meet the challenge. That is who we are. In the years to come, humanity's legacy would grow, shaped by the balance they struck between humility and strength, caution and boldness. They had proven that the smallest force, with the sharpest mind and strongest will, could change the course of history. And as the stars stretched out before them, their future remained as boundless as their resolve.